Welcome back, everybody, and today we're continuing our look at a couple different meal delivery, meal prep delivery, meal services, whatever the hip new name is, buzzwords, macro. And today we're taking a look at Bistro MD. It's not one I'd really heard a lot about because it's not more, it is much more. It is an actual plan they kind of put out for you over a 7-day period. When you choose your meals, it's not like Flex Pro meals, it's not like Cook Unity, it's not like Factor, and that you have X amount of meals and you just pick any and everything you want. What they do is they have like a 7-day schedule, and you specifically pick a breakfast, and then there's a lunch and a dinner. The majority of the meals that are on the lunch and dinner category can be swapped and swapped back and forth, so it's no real big deal. But the breakfast meals are very much breakfast meals. We'll go over those a little bit later. I've got one specifically I want to show you just to give you a little bit of an idea of what one looks like. Now, when it comes to these, back to the 7-day plan, you pick a breakfast, you pick a lunch, a dinner, you do that for 7 days. Now, I want to say on the Friday for the dinner, they kind of like give you like a cheat day, you know, that you just eat whatever you want for that meal for dinner Friday. And then every other meal is specifically chosen for you, and it comes in this cute little quaint little packaging. And I'm just so glad that that green is just enough of a color green to show up on the green screen. This was new to me because normally everything we tried before, it's just like a lunch or dinner, mostly kind of like a dinner type of meal. So this was kind of new and nice to try, and just too long didn't read, too long didn't watch. I'll tell you right now, without a shadow of a doubt, if you're trying to lose weight, like genuinely you need help with portion control, you don't really care if something tastes good or not, you just want something that like, oh, here's this amount of food, I'm gonna eat it, we're done for the day, then Bistro MD is by far the best option we've looked at. Like overall, when it comes to health and like caloric intake, it's not even a comparison. Just like right here, this meal right here, this breakfast dish, it's only 310 calories. Now it is only 9 ounces, which is a bit on the small side, but every single meal I've eaten, some of which have been fairly hearty, I want to say the max calories I've seen was 380. I want to say for like Factor and Flex Pro meals, the lowest calories they had was like 550 up into the 700s. And Cook Unity was the same. Cook Unity was more kind of averaging around the 600 mark, but they did have a few, their portions were much larger, but they did have a few that were kind of up in like a little bit above 700, 750, 770, which still isn't bad, you know, especially for somebody like me. But compared to eating like what they consider a full meal, some people would say it's a little, you know, especially for 9 ounces, it leaves a little to desire. But there are ones that are more substantial. For their range of calories to go from like mid 200s to under 400, that's pretty insane compared to what we've been looking at. Factor was a little bit healthier as well, like especially compared to Flex Pro meals. Flex Pro meal, in my opinion, so far has seemed the most like processed, the most like there's a conveyor belt and assembly line behind this. Some people are just Flex Pro meals is the main one where it seems like there's like a factory with an assembly line behind us, just like people just fucking just, you know, just jamming shit together, throwing it in there, selling it up, hey, you know, like it's ridiculous. But when it comes to Bistro MD, not only is it the healthiest when it comes to what you're eating and the amount of calories you're intaking, they also have by far, other than Factor, the best nutritional value chart, table, whatever you want to call it, that we've seen. They've got everything on the back here. They've literally got calories, serving size, total fats, saturated fats, trans fats, cholesterol. One of the first ones to have cholesterol. I don't even know if Factor had cholesterol. Sodium, which 520 milligrams, that's 23%. That is substantially lower than anything else that's had sodium on it. Carbohydrates, fiber, sugar, added sugars, protein, vitamin D, calcium, iron, potassium. I mean, well, technically I couldn't go on, but you get the point. And then it has an extremely detailed ingredients list all the way down from, evaporated milk, egg whites. We can even go to cultured cream, skim milk, vitamin A, white cheddar cheese, 2% soybean oil. And they're extremely detailed in the ingredients list and when it comes to what you're actually ingesting in your body, which I think is really cool. But they also are by far the most TV dinner frozen food looking, feeling, and tasting service we've had by far. They come frozen. It comes in this box here. And as you can see, it's had the absolute shit beaten out of it. When we open it up, it comes with a nice little bit of padding. And it has a center divider in there. That's what this is. That keeps the meals sectioned into 4 quarters. We'll say heads up. One somewhat potentially dangerous thing about Bistro MD that they don't make clear until you're like tearing the box open. And if you're not paying attention, you can look right by it. Is their meals are shipped frozen. And they actually, instead of like the disposable ice packs a lot of places use, they actually use dry ice. And this was my first time like on this level having an experience in fucking with dry ice. So I mean, if you got some kids, be careful, but get your little pot of water, throw in there and just look at the it's fun. I'm not gonna lie, it was a nice little surprise. As I've mentioned, Bistro MD is by far the healthiest, but it seems like with that they made the sacrifice of any sort of taste or flavor. Sadly, there were only 2 out of 20 meals that I actually liked overall and thought were like, damn, this is good. The majority of them, like I said, fall into that like typical frozen food TV dinner. The vegetables are mushy and soggy and like there's no crispness or freshness to them. They're wet pools of water in everything. The mashed potatoes were, just like, oh god. Like there was one, I'll go over it, but it was like it was almost, if you've ever had powdered mashed potatoes where it was frozen, it's like the powder and the water separated when it froze. So when you microwaved it and you mixed it up, it was like eating potato flakes. It was horrible. So overall, I'd say taste wise, sorry, but Bistro MD is at the bottom of our list right now. Top of the list for health and calories and, blah, but bottom of the list for taste, flavor, and let's be honest, what really matters. Fuck some calories. We here to eat, bro. We here to get something good. But as I mentioned, all the meals come to you frozen. It's a bit confusing. It says, put these bitches in the freezer the second you get them. And it also has a keep frozen on the front. But on the back, when it comes to for best results, it says, thaw for at least, 12 or so hours, a minimum of overnight, and then have it for lunch the next morning type of deal. So it's almost one of those, if you plan on like actually doing a 7-day thing, you probably want to go on and just thaw out like 2 days or so worth of meals ahead of time, just to, I just kept them frozen because, you know me, I want to see the worst. I'm going to microwave the shit. If it's frozen, I'm going to fix it frozen. That's, the whole point of this is to save time, not, oh, well, I better set this out 12 hours in advance. Like, that kind of defeats the whole purpose. You see what I'm saying? You end up getting 20 meals for what was around about $104, some 100 and a few bucks and some change, but that was with like a 50% off code. I want to say if I continued the plan onto the next week, there was a bit of a discount. I forget exactly how much it was, but it was only 136 bucks the next week. Now, comparative to like Flex Pro meals, that was $150 with 40% off. Honestly, Factor wasn't very expensive. Cook Unity for what you get wasn't very expensive. If Factor was a little less like I mentioned, processed, a vibe of processed food. Factor with certain chicken breasts has like, it's almost too perfect. You know what I mean? It's like cookie cutter shaped, grill marks. It's like some dude's got a job just like putting fake grill marks on chicken breasts all day, and that's what you're getting with Factor. Now, overall, the food's good, but with Bistro MD, I have to say, when the chicken was good, the chicken was good. They have like a few different, sliced pork tenderloin with blood and microwave pork tenderloin. You know what I mean? Like you can just imagine how that's gonna feel. Okay, but like the chicken and stuff, I have to give them credit. They had a few, which actually were the two meals I liked. Like a jerk chicken and a stuffed chicken breast, and both were fantastic. The chicken was great. I mean, for it to be microwaved meat, that might have been the best, like texture, consistency, juiciness, like most like actually like perfectly cooked chicken. It was wild. What's crazy is those two meals were so good and so much better than everything else. It kind of hurts my fat little heart. Now I'm gonna let you get a little bit closer look here and let you take a look at the front. All right, so as you can see here, this is the breakfast pancetta leek and goat cheese frittata. You can see the keep it frozen 9 ounces over here. We flip it over, look on the back. We've got more of a detailed nutritional chart. We got the ingredients, and then here we have like more of like an overview of exactly what the meal is. It is a fluffy frittata filled with pancetta goat cheese, sauteed leeks, chives, served alongside herb roasted red skin potatoes. All right, so let's take a little look in here. You'll see more of what I'm talking about with that frozen food vibe. Like the potatoes, like that's just stereotypical frozen ass potatoes. There ain't no flavor there. The herb potatoes, my ass. Even the damn red skin isn't even got any flavor that it normally does. The frittata, this part of the frittata is good. This part on the outside here, when you microwave it, it turns to actual stone. Like it's crazy how overcooked the exterior can be, but still cold and undercooked the interior can be. It's wild. This is one of the pork tenderloins with mashed potatoes and green beans. Kind of can't see the green beans, but you can see what I'm saying a bit more about how this is much more than 9 ounces. Sorry I couldn't give you a bit more of a detailed look there. I was kind of afraid I was going to dump that shit all on my soundboard and keyboard, so sorry about that. But let's get into some of the meals, how they tasted, what my thoughts were. The very first meal we tried was a sweet potato breakfast hash with a limoncello vinaigrette with vegan mung bean scrambled eggs, roasted kale with cherry tomatoes. Now, I have never had a limoncello vinaigrette, ever. And I'll just start this off by saying one thing. I hope I never have one again. Now, I'm not going to hold this against limoncello vinaigrettes, but my God, like anything that limoncello touched, I could not eat. Even when I scraped it off things, it was so off-putting, I could barely eat it. Now, another thing I'll tell you right up about this one, and this is a bit of an issue they have with a few of the other meals. Not on the level of this meal, but I like spicy food. I like spicy food. I like the warmth in my mouth. I like getting a little sweaty. These sweet potatoes were by far the best part of this meal. They didn't really have much flavor, but they were very sweet potato-y. Like if you just imagine like just straight plain chunks of a sweet potato. You know, nothing crazy, nothing special. But for it not to be mentioned, they were extremely spicy. Like surprisingly spicy, even for somebody like me who likes spicy food. So if you're somebody who like has like adverse reactions to anything spicy, or you can't like physically eat spicy food, that might be something you need to address with them if you decide to try their service out. Because let me tell you, if you don't like spicy food, those sweet potatoes would light your ass up. To be honest, I've not had much kale in my life. A lot like the sweet potato, there wasn't much seasoning other than the limoncello vinaigrette. And if you like the taste of kale, which I mean, it's not as horrible as everybody made it out to be. It just tastes like greens, you know, without like the bacon and this and that, and you know, like, so it wasn't bad. The tomatoes, they like, come on, bro, frozen cherry tomatoes that are microwaved. You guys aren't stupid. You know how that's gonna be. It's like little hot, little flavorless bags of water. It was just awful. I mean, like mixed together, I could eat it as long as it didn't have any limoncello vinaigrette on it. The vegan mung bean scrambled eggs, like I've had a lot of egg substitutes. My grandmother at one point in her life was eating a lot of, well, she's not been with us for quite a long time, but she was eating a lot of egg beaters. My dad was actually vegan for a long ass time, more than a handful of years. So I've had my fair share of vegan eggs and egg substitutes. And these mung bean scrambled eggs were by far the worst egg substitute I've ever had in my life. They were so bad. Like it couldn't even like hold itself together. It was so disgusted even with its own self that it didn't want to. The next, I guess this could technically be considered a breakfast meal as well, was a Mediterranean chicken crepe filled with chicken, artichokes, spinach, and sun-dried tomatoes, and a goat cheese bechamel sauce with parsley potatoes. Now, I think there were a total of three breakfast meals I had that were crepes. Most of them savory. I think all of them were savory, actually. And I have to say, for it to be a microwaved crepe, I was really surprised. Like, I wouldn't say I like loved the meal as a whole, because the potatoes were just not high quality. It didn't have any flavor, any taste, just your typical frozen microwave potatoes, just bad overall. But the crepes, now if you go to like an actual place to get crepes, they'll be texture wise a little bit better. But overall, it was a nice sweetness. It worked with the savory. The goat cheese was fucking awesome. Like the crepes, the two crepes that came with it were great. I can't complain about those at all. I'm not going to act like I'm a crepe connoisseur and can tell you the fine highs and lows, etc. But those crepes were good. I will say every meal I had that had, I think we had like a pork crepe, maybe 2 chicken crepes. They were all pretty daggone good. Next is our first like lunch or dinner type meal, and it's the cranberry harvest turkey meatballs with sage dried cranberries, brown gravy, and diced carrots with onions and roasted sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts. You know me, I'm a big fan of Brussels sprouts. They had no seasoning, no anything, but they were well cooked, and if you like the taste of just plain Brussels sprouts, they were good. I mean, come on. I got tits. Obviously, I prefer Brussels sprouts when they're just saturated with bacon, garlic, and just bacon grease. Okay? That's not what this is. But they were still good overall. The carrots and the green beans and all that stuff was just like your typical like diced frozen carrots, like just again flavorless, low quality. Like I was a bit disappointed in that overall. The meatballs, I have to say, overall were fantastic. The size, the consistency, they held together well, the flavor was there. I'm weird in that I'm somebody that doesn't like cranberry sauce. I'm not a huge cranberry fan, but when it comes to like incorporating like Thanksgiving flavors with cranberries, I'm a huge fan of that. And I will say these meatballs, man, they hit the spot when it came to that. And the sweet potatoes that were in this, for some reason, they were just dog shit. They were so bad. And like even compared to the first sweet potatoes we had, like why the quality was so different, I don't know. But it was a bit disappointing because, like I said, those original sweet potatoes, even though they were a bit spicy, like overall, I like sweet potatoes. I liked them. So this was one of the meals I liked a lot. For me, it was just a score overall because, anytime you get meat, balls, Thanksgiving, cranberries, you jam all that shit together. I mean, you're talking my kind of language. Next is the Italian chicken sausage and peppers in a basil tomato sauce with bell peppers, onions, and a smoked Gouda roasted garlic whipped cauliflower. That isn't a fucking mouthful. Overall, the chicken sausage and the tomato basil sauce was fantastic. The peppers, I mean, we can say this a million times. The frozen microwave produce isn't really the best. You know what I mean? Especially when like peppers, a lot of time you have a pepper and onions, you got it because that little bit of a crisp, that crunch. These didn't have that. But overall, the basil tomato sauce was pretty good. I can't complain about it. The chicken sausage could have used a bit more flavor, but overall it was good. It was pretty good. Overall it was good. It was pretty good. Now it would have been better if it was like pan seared or on a grill, you know, I mean, obviously. But microwave meat is microwave meat. Now for me, I love Gouda. I'm not a fan for cauliflower or against cauliflower. The smoked Gouda and roasted garlic whipped cauliflower was absolutely disgusting. It was so bad, it almost ruined the whole damn meal. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I took 2 bites of the sausage and peppers. I took a big old bite of that fucking whipped cauliflower, and buddy, I let that shit set for about 30 or 40 minutes before I went back to it. It was so bad. For me, it was like, it was so bad, my body had like a instinctual like fight or flight reaction to the mouth feel and taste of the whipped cauliflower. So, you know, do with that as you will. All right, now we're looking at the hickory smoked pork loin with barbecue sauce and tangy purple cabbage and apple slaw with broccoli florets. Now, if you're noticing a theme here, you get bonus points anytime you use florets, broccoli florets, cauliflower florets over like cuts, broccoli cuts, chunks of fucking stalk and shit with like a little twig sticking off of it. It's awful. And the fact that they used florets over broccoli cuts, that always gets bonus points for me. So we'll just get that open out of the way. With a lot of the pulled pork, pulled beef, pulled chicken, anything that has sauces when it comes to Bistro MD, there was a good amount of the meat of the pulled pork in particular here, but there wasn't enough of that sauce. You know what I'm saying? The sauce wasn't the greatest thing in the world. It was good enough. It was a good barbecue sauce, but there just wasn't enough of it. That's the only main complaint I have for the pulled pork. And let's be honest, a little bit more barbecue sauce takes this from being, you know, 270, 300 calories to the 500 or 700 I'm used to. Now, I'm from the South. I've lived my whole life in the South, and you can safely assume I've eaten quite a lot of barbecue. I don't know what the fuck the hype is with all this purple cabbage slaw everywhere. Flex Pro had it. I want to say Factor and Cook Unity all had it. Everything we've used, everything, anything that's got a pulled pork or a Carolina this, it's got this fucking tangy purple cabbage slaw. It's just awful every time. Like, it's either way too vinegary, like curling your toes back type shit, or it's just like in this case, it was just crunch. It was just purple crunch. Like that's it. That's the only redeeming factor for this purple cabbage coleslaw. It's not even calling it coleslaw, because coleslaw is the real shit. This is a purple cabbage slaw, and the only redeeming factor is that it's crunchy. That's it. That's all it adds. That's it. No flavor, nothing. Just crunchy. The apples, just a bit weird. They weren't bad, but they were more like chewy, gooey instead of having like a bit of a crispiness to them, like I would have liked. They weren't really, and this is the way it is with a lot of the apples in their dishes. They weren't really sweet. They were used more as like a savory aspect of the meal. Like it kind of caught me off guard the first time too, because like I said, they put a little spiciness and shit without letting you know. So I'm eating these apples and I'm like, what the fuck? So it's got a little savoriness with a smidge of sweetness and then a little bit of spicy heat to it. So, you know, depending on who you are, you might like that more than me. This is the hickory smoked barbecue pork crepe with herbed apple and red onion salad. Weirdly, one of the things that, as the kids say, slaps compared to anything else we've tried with Bistro MD are the crepes, dude. The crepes have been like a home run. They've hit every time. They're batting 10 for 10, buddy. You know what I mean? They got an inside the park home run on this shit. It's just the right combination of sweet and savory. The barbecue sauce, again, not enough of it. The barbecue sauce with the sweetness of the crepe, the savoriness of the pork. Like, it was really good. The crepes were. Now, again, the apples, the red onions, it was just bad. I'm sure somebody can make that work in some part of the world, but it just did not work here. Like I said before, the apples were chewy and just not up to par for what you'd think of, like, you know, like a fried apple. You know what I mean? And it was just like all of it just set in water. You know, it was like shitty savory apples, dog shit limp dick onions, in water. You know, it just didn't work. This next one really hurt. Now we're looking at the Italian style chicken meatballs with a Merlot wine sauce, creamy grits, and whole green beans. Now I'll make it a point to say their whole green beans aren't bad. As I've said before, no seasoning, no flavor outside of just the natural flavor of a green bean. But if you like green beans, you'll like their whole green beans. Their cut green beans are frozen dog shit. The whole green beans are pretty okay. They're acceptable. And again, like I was saying with the previous the Thanksgiving meatball, cranberry meatballs, the structure of the meatball, it's perfect. It's firm. It feels good in your mouth. But that Merlot wine sauce absolutely fucking ruined them, bro. It tasted so bad. It was so awful. It had such a horrible aftertaste. I'm not a fan of wine, and that may have been why this, like, fucking, I mean, it was almost making me gag. I had to get the meatballs and scrape as much as the sauce off of the sauce off of them as I could, and it was still just just this horrible aftertaste of like vinegar, like almost just awful. The grits, they were anything but creamy, dude. I have never seen or had worse grits in my life. It was like dried clumps of dust. Like it was just clumps. Like it was so dry. Like the grits, you couldn't stir them or mix them. I've never seen grits this bad. The green beans, like I said, were, you know, their whole green beans are pretty okay. No flavor, no seasoning, but if you like the taste of green beans, you'll probably like those. Now we're going to look at the chicken andouille sausage jambalaya with hearty vegetables and seasoned long grain brown rice. Well, the first thing we can call out right now, that's a damn lie, is ain't nothing in this seasoned at all. Period. The rice, the andouille, there ain't no seasoning in this. So we're gonna call them on that bullshit. Like before, the chicken sausage, pretty good. Can't complain. It wasn't bad at all. Especially when it was nice and warm, it was pretty good. Overall, not gonna complain about the chicken sausage. I think the chicken sausages, they did pretty okay. This was one of the larger meals and still is within that 300 to 350 calorie range, which again is wild. I'll tell you right now, anybody from the South who like makes or consistently eats authentic jambalaya would drive to wherever the hell their headquarters are at Bistro MD and smack whoever said this was a fucking jambalaya right in the mouth, because let me tell you, the flavor was nowhere near a real jambalaya. Now we're looking at another one of the breakfast dishes, the smoked chipotle pork over white eggs with salsa verde and a bean and corn salad dressed in red wine vinaigrette. The pork and eggs were pretty good, I have to say. These were real eggs, and they were much better than the mung bean substitutes. Let me tell you that right now. I'm also a very big fan of verde sauce. I love a good verde sauce. Oh, fuck. It's so good. It's so good. And the pork, eggs, and the verde sauce actually work pretty okay together. Again, frozen microwave eggs, frozen microwave pork. Yeah. Now, the crazy thing was, as many sides and parts of the meals as we've had that have been absolutely soaked and saturated, just sitting in water and watery and like the corn and bean salad would have been really good if it wasn't the driest thing you've ever put in your mouth. Like, I thought it actually was pretty cool and a good idea. I would like to eat more things like that in my life, but it was just so dry. Like, where the hell is this vinaigrette y'all talking about, man? Like, wild. Everything else is fucking watery and overly saturated, but the one thing I'm like, damn, I'd like, let me go put this under the water faucet for a minute, you know? Now we're looking at another barbecue dish. This one's a hickory smoked beef with barbecue sauce and whipped Yukon Gold potatoes with sauteed green beans. These sauteed green beans were the whole green beans, so they were actually pretty good. Decent flavor, no real seasoning or anything to them, but overall not bad. Same issue as the previous meals. A good portion of meat, just not enough sauce. Now, I love Yukon Gold potatoes. They are my favorite, other than maybe a sweet potato, my favorite potato ever. And if you've never had a Yukon Gold, I recommend you stop. Yes, I'm saying stop watching right now. Go to your grocery store and get you a bag of Yukon Golds. Baked potatoes, mashed potatoes. If you do it right, damn, it is so good. They're a little expensive, but they're so damn good. Now, saying that, these Yukon Gold mashed potatoes were a fucking travesty, and I want to call the UN, the International Crime Court, whatever, and file a damn war crime. I don't know if these things were sent from Russia or what, but this shit is like an actual, like, this is like a violation of human rights. These Yukon Gold potatoes are. These were so disrespectful to the Yukon Gold potato. I can't stand it. But my God, what has Bistro MD done to my son? What have they done to you, my boy? It's awful. Now, I mean, it hurts me inside my soul to even breathe a negative term, word, or phrase, or even slightly speak negatively about Yukon Gold potatoes. But man, it's just the truth. These were, like, even me, I couldn't eat them. I took like 2 bites and I'm good. That's awful. Yukon Golds, no. You know, don't meet your heroes, don't drive your dream cars. That's what I was experiencing there. I like met my celebrity crush and was like, oh no, you're an asshole and you're dry and you fucking taste like shit. Now we're gonna look at the sliced pork tenderloin with country style caramelized onion gravy and mashed potatoes with green beans and carrots. Microwave meat. Now why people, this is one thing I think Cook Unity did. Instead of having like pork tenderloin and microwaving it, they would give you like pork roast, pork butt, much like, well, darker cuts of meat, and they have more moisture in them. The problem when you microwave a pork tenderloin, you're removing the tender from the loin. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you're like chewing bubble gum here. It can still have good flavor, and this did. The gravy wasn't bad. The gravy was good, but just microwave meat, man. What could have been something like really good was turned into a mediocre, chewy mess because they chose, I mean, hell, probably one of the most, if not the most expensive cut of pork, put in your meal, freeze, and then for you to microwave. Just, the carrots and the green beans were the chopped green beans and little square carrots from like every shitty frozen food meal you've ever had. They were just awful. One green bean would be like liquid lava, the next would be frozen. You'd bite into one piece of carrot, it would be raw, the next one would be mush. It's just how they're able to achieve like so many different like ends of the spectrum at once. It's unbelievable. This meal is the one that had the just powdery ass like box of potato flake mashed potatoes, and like I said before, it seems like they had them all nice and put together, but when you froze them, the flakes and the water separated, and goddamn, when you microwave them, they didn't go back together, let me tell you. Yeah, I was shocked at how bad these were, even compared to the shit show of like mashed potatoes and roasted potatoes that we've talked about previously. Now, this was one of the first frittatas I've ever like knowingly had as an adult. I've had quiches, but I'm sure if I say it's like a quiche, somebody's gonna lose their shit on me, but it's like a quiche. This is the artichoke, spinach, and roasted red pepper frittata with white cheddar and turkey sausage links. Again, this was my first frittata I ever had, so I'm a little like not really knowing what to expect. As I mentioned before, somehow in God's green earth, they managed to have a food item that when cooked, the outer edge turns to stone. Some would even say tensile steel. And the center is just a fucking cold, uncooked, like it. I could never with these find the perfect amount of time to cook it to where everything was cooked through and not overdone or undercooked. Like it, the frittatas were a bit of a bitch. And one thing I will say about this is it's very similar to a quiche for me, that when I have it, that's what, oh, quiche, you know, that's what pops in my head. It's just, where the hell was this white cheddar, bro? I could use more of that white cheddar, dude. Like just like 2 more shreds, it would have made a world of difference. The center of the frittata, once you finally got it cooked, was pretty good. I'm not going to complain about the flavor. You know, again, you know, microwave frozen eggs and stuff. But overall, it was pretty nice. If you don't take the sausage links out sooner than later, they're going to turn into just charred little fucking Lincoln logs of just ash. Now, if you cook them right, they're actually pretty daggone good. And I'd have to say they were probably the high point of this meal because they had salt in them, unlike anything else in this goddamn meal plan. The meal we're going to talk about now was one of the two that was just so much better than anything else we had from Bistro M&D. This one is the spinach and feta stuffed chicken breast with pomodoro sauce and whole green beans and carrots. The whole green beans, you know, I don't know if they get them from a different supplier, what the issue is there, but the whole green beans are always, they have just consistently been better than the chopped green beans. Carrots are ass, have been ass. Anything that's got a carrot in any of these meals, it has been awful. It's just been awful. But the chicken was mind-blowingly delicious. Like, it was so good. It wasn't overcooked. It wasn't dry. The stuffing stayed in there. The stuffing was great. Again, the only thing I can ask for is just a bit more feta to give it that, like, you know, a little bit of a But God, overall, that chicken breast was, I don't want to say restaurant quality, but if you went and got that chicken breast from a Denny's, you'd be like, damn, that's a good chicken breast. I didn't know Denny's could cook a chicken breast as good. So there's that. I'm scratching that. I forgot about this meal. I feel like an asshole. This is the third meal. There was the meal we just talked about that was fantastic. There's this one and one more that stood out amongst the rest. This one was a chicken eggplant parmesan with roasted garlic Brussels sprouts. Now, you know I like my Brussels sprouts, and these actually had some motherfucking, they had literal pieces of garlic on them you could see. And as always, I wish there was just a bit more, but overall, those Brussels sprouts were fucking good, dude. They were really good. And the eggplant, like, eggplant is a really weird thing to cook with and just deal with in general. Like, for me personally, it's either like undercooked and too firm and hard, or it's just overcooked into mush. Somehow they managed to find the perfect medium with this eggplant, and it was fantastic. Like, fantastic. The sauce was great. The chicken breast was really good. It wasn't as good as previously, but overall, the chicken eggplant parmesan, I would recommend that as a whole. Don't eat the carrots, but I would recommend that as a whole. But yeah, overall, other than the carrots, I don't have anything negative to say about this. The chicken was cooked perfectly. I'm still thinking about how crazy it is that they perfectly cooked that eggplant. Like, it's insane. I have gone to restaurants and gotten eggplant parmesans, this, that, or the other, and have it be dog shit compared to their eggplant parmesan. So I'll give them that, hands down. It was fantastic. Now we're going to look at one of my favorites. Anytime I have the option to get this, I'm going to get it. The mojo pork with black beans and rice with bell peppers, onions, and a green cabbage slaw. The pork was on point. The black beans and rice were a bit too dry for my taste. I like them to be a little bit more, well, not necessarily wet, but like, well, a little bit more mushy, you know? Like, I don't want just like a dry bean laying on some dry rice. I like a little bit of like sauce in there, a little essence of the jus, you know, like a little je ne sais quoi on that motherfucker. So for me, that's my main complaint, is just the rice and beans were just a bit too dry. Yeah, that's it. The pepper and onions worked really good when you mixed everything together, because of course they were a bit watery, and it helped give some like liquid, and, you know, helped kind of cut down the dryness of the rice and beans. So that was nice. I've never had a green cabbage slaw, and I mean, this one, like we were saying earlier about the tangy purple cabbage slaw, there wasn't really any flavor. Like, there wasn't any flavor, good or bad. It was just like crunchy cabbage. That's it. And a lot of the taste and flavor you get with Bistro MD, it comes from the vegetables or the protein itself, not like anything that's added to it, not any seasoning, etc. The majority of it is just the flavor of green beans, the flavor of Brussels sprouts, the flavor, you know, like they're not trying to fancy anything up too crazy. This is the last of the breakfast dishes. This is the frittata italiana with chicken sausage, a bell pepper, and a mozzarella cheese with a marinara and a side of beans and a sauteed kale. Just like with all the frittatas, outside was a bit hard, inside is a bit undercooked. With this one, the sauce made this the best of the frittatas, just because I just added more to it. It just added flavor to it, added chunks of tomato, you know, this, that, and the other. Like it was much better. Surprisingly, the beans and kale like were sauteed and mixed together. If it would have had like a little bit of salt or just a little something else, it would have actually been really good. Like it was just a bit dry again, just a smidge dry. Again, the two things out of everything we tried that, you know, hey, let's just get a little bit of moisture in this, are the two driest things out of all the things. It's insane. Now we're saving the best for last, and this, my friends, was by leaps and fucking bounds. This was my favorite dish. This was the jerk spiced chicken with mango chutney and a okra stew with spinach. So it had like a large chicken breast just covered in jerk sauce surrounded by the spinach. Damn, man. Damn. Chicken breast was amazing. Cooked perfectly. I mean, it was about yay thick, like a big chicken breast. Cooked all the way through, nice and moist all the way through, had enough jerk seasoning and flavor on it to where it was perfect. You didn't want more, you weren't left leaving more. You got that nice little zing to it. It was fantastic. I cannot complain at all about the chicken breast. The spinach could have used a little help, but overall, if you got a little bit of the chicken, kind of got some spinach on it, it was pretty good. It worked really well with the excess jerk seasoning from the chicken. And one of the craziest things was this meal was one of the biggest, and it was only 280 calories. 280 calories, which is insane to me. Like, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, if you actually want to lose weight and you can eat a meal and stop if that's all you have, bro, Bistro MD is where it's at. As we've talked about before, I guess okra is like a new hip thing. You know, in the South, it's a depression food. The okra stew overall was a bit flavorless, but it wasn't bad compared to the other sides in the meals. The okra wasn't like slimy or anything like, you know, okra can traditionally be. It wasn't slimy or anything like okra can traditionally be. You know, just going back to the chicken and spinach, if you don't like the taste of just like straight just spinach, and you're not gonna like mix it with any of that jerk seasoning, you might not like this one, but I cannot overstate how goddamn good that jerk chicken was, man. It was so good. It's so good, my mouth is watering right now, and I swear I wish I had like 3 of them bitches sitting in front of me. It was fantastic. Overall, health and calorie wise, nobody has come close to Bistro MD. Their caloric intake and their plan as a whole is geared much more towards like having you lose weight, control your sodium, etc. So it's by far the healthiest, by far the best if you're wanting to actually trim down and lose weight. It's the worst in my opinion overall flavor wise. I don't think it's even close. Even Flex Pro meals, even though it was a bit processed tasting at times, it still had flavor. Still had salt in it, maybe a bit too much salt. That's why they're not telling you that macro. But for some people, flavor isn't everything. Some people aren't like me. Some people just eat food for energy. But next, I think we're going to look at something a little bit different than these. It's called Home Chef. I know they offer a service similar to like HelloFresh, etc., Blue Apron, where you get ingredients sent to you. However, this is different in that they come with a pan. Everything's already like portioned out, prepped. You just dump it in this pan, throw it in the oven, and then you can eat it. That's probably the next one we're going to try. If you guys have any ideas, any suggestions, anything that's on sale, holler at me, let me know, and we'll do a video on it. We'll check it out. You know, I'm always happy to eat, so give me some ideas here. You guys take it easy. We'll see you later.